Today's guest is Jeffrey Bornman. He's a mind body trainer, and he has helped me a lot and so many other people to cultivate a gratitude practice,
Mm.
a daily ritual that helps you align with your cosmic purpose, as he calls it. And we're going to go very deep into that. And Jeffrey also helps people to express themselves, to tell their story in a meaningful way that will impact other people and inspire them to have a positive change in their life. And I'm so excited to have this conversation today, especially about gratitude, daily rituals, how to become happy, and so much more. Hopefully, we can all squeeze it all in 1 hour.
Yeah, good.
Welcome to Think Clever Podcast, Jeffrey.
Thank you. It's a privilege, really, Stas, to be here with you. This is a true honor. I'm delighted.
Thank you, thank you. Um, Cosmic purpose. This is I love how you talk about it. This is something that like really ignites me because I do believe that when you're aligned with your purpose, things just flow. Things happen, and for a lot of people, and funny enough, like yesterday I had a conversation with a friend he didn't feel like he was aligned with his purpose in life.
Mm-hmm.
He had a job and he was doing certain things, but it didn't,
Mm-hmm.
like, there was something missing. There was a certain emptiness in him that the void that needed to be filled. And this is exactly what you help people do. You help people become aligned with that. So I would love to learn more about the process. How does this journey of aligning with your purpose look like?
Great question. Let me back up just a little bit and tell you how it is that I came to see the value uh, in doing that work,
Hmm.
and even deeper, recognizing what you just talked about your friend yesterday explaining to you, that emptiness that exists within us when we're not in that place of service. I didn't set out to discover that.
Hmm.
It revealed itself to me. Uh, I'm a personal trainer is where I started this journey, and I could see when I was a young trainer that I had a group of clients that were really succeeding, and this was the late 1980s. So the way we think of how people have personal trainers and boot camps and all that, none of that existed.
Yeah.
So the people that had a trainer at that time were really already successful people. They were successful athletes or CEOs that had grueling schedules, movie stars that needed to change their body for a role. This was my client base. But I could see that there's a group of people that really just, I was participating in their success.
Yeah.
I had this other group of people that I was just really struggling with trying to understand why they couldn't find their way, why they couldn't just take the things that I encourage them to do, make it their own, and say, all right, well, this doesn't work, but this does. And I really love doing that, but I don't like that. And, whatever, the way you modulate in your own fitness and your own journey. I could see that this something was missing, but I didn't know what it was.
Hmm.
So I would go over here to this other group of clients, and I just sort of chatted with them while we're working out at the club. And so, how is it that you take this information that I'm giving you and put it into your life? I would ask. And invariably, the wording would be different, but ultimately, always what came back was, I understand where fitness fits into my life. I understand what I'm doing here on the planet. I understand what my family is a vehicle to accomplish a bigger goal. I understand that my profession is a vehicle to accomplish a bigger goal. And I understand that I need a level of well being to do the things that are bigger than my life.
Hmm.
That's what's important to me. That's why I'm seeing you here at 5:30 in the morning, not because it's such a pleasure, even though I enjoy being with you. But really, and I'm sort of paraphrasing for a whole group of clients that it would say, I know what I'm here for. I understand my purpose. And I'm like, okay, now over here, I could start to see is what was missing, because then I would ask the exact inverse question of, why doesn't that work for you when I say, cut out dairy, just give it a try for 6 weeks, see the difference in your life and in how your body works, and then give that an assessment whether or not it's worthy to keep it out of your diet permanently or not. Like they were just unconnected to all of it. And so I remembered back to a study. I don't know if it was a study. our congregation, when I was a kid, our church that my family went to, brought in an expert that guided us all as a congregation through exercises to figure out what it is you really are good at, so that you could perhaps find your place of service in the church. And if you knew what your passion was, if you knew what you were skilled at, if you knew what you really cared about, like on a big level, you would perhaps find a place of service that would satisfy you as a church member, but would also then benefit the congregation on a much higher level than, the basic, we show up on Sunday and yay, and it's all nice and go home. So I went back to that. I actually still had the paperwork from that when I was a kid, and I went back to that and looked at some of the questions and some of the work, and I realized that that was a good place to start. So with the people that already had a sense of purpose about their life, I sort of asked them some of those questions, and they were like, "Well, yeah. Well, there was, they had done that work on some level, whether it was through their own journey or they had a wise parent or a mentor. Somebody had guided them into that quality of thinking." And so I was like, all right, works. So I went over to this group of people and started asking these questions and said, let's do some of this work. Let's figure out what you're really good at, what you really care about. And then ultimately, all of those skills and all those things you care about, what do you think you're really here to do on the planet? What do you think you're doing with this lifetime? Some of those people were like, oh, whatever, I'm not interested. I just need to get to a dress size for my, class reunion. They didn't care about the other thing. But the people that did it, immediately it connected, it worked. And they were starting to perform now like this group over here. So I could see that there was a bridge. And this was like 30 years ago. I mean, so there was nobody teaching this stuff. I wasn't learning this in my personal training education. And I wasn't even learning this from other really amazing mentors and teachers that I had at the LA Athletic Club, where I was a young trainer. And in that environment, there were Olympic athletes, they were, former professional athletes, they were, high-level trainers that were teaching me, that were sort of guiding me and mentoring me, but none of them were teaching this. So I could see that there was something there that I could continue to explore. And so for the last really 30 years, what I really started to see was that people would come to me because they want to be fit for something. I mean, they understand that they just need to be healthy so they can play with their grandkids, or they want to be healthy so they have a healthy pregnancy, or they want to, be healthy because they want to get a lot of money and get a lot of sex and get a lot of good stuff. So I have no problem with any of that. I mean, that's all great. But I could see that the people that understood about their purpose, about what they were doing, those were the people that were really achieving big goals. I mean, and big fitness goals. We're not even talking about the other areas of their life. So I've started with this discussion with every client. As soon as you come into my purview, this is what we start with. What do you think you're really here to do on the planet? Because the question of what exercises do I need to do? How do I, lose my baby weight? How do I, make my butt nice and firm? How do all these questions that they really don't matter? Yeah. And the solution to those problems is easy if you understand why you need it. If you understand what you care about and what the body that the person up there on that billboard has, that's their life. That is the body that is the result of how they live their life. Your life is not going to match that necessarily. So why make the appearance your goal? How about if we make the understanding your goal, and you'll get the appearance? And I watched it happen time after time after time after again. And so that's how I really understand that this is the actual answer to what we're all looking for in our lives. Not because I'm so clever and I came up with this. I've observed it happening in life after life after life after life. If you don't understand what you're really doing on this planet, the content of calories in a gram of carbohydrate is useless information. Exactly. It does not matter. But if you really understand that everything you're participating in on this planet, in your life, is about this higher thing, this higher place of service, this cosmic occupation, I finally came to understand it as. It's what you do probably before you took possession of this body, and I suspect whatever the next set of circumstances we move into, that's what your consciousness will also be doing. It's cosmic. It's bigger than this lifetime. There's one lifetime as an opportunity to do that. And then the job that we have, the family that we have, the friendships that we have, the things that we do with our time all day long, those are just vehicles to be employing this other cosmic occupation. Once you understand that, everything changes. Your whole life just shifts. It's what I like to call it as a kaleidoscope. You turn that, and all of a sudden the same beads, everything that was your life looks different. and you're just, you're I can't believe it. What happens when you go from picture to picture to picture, or image to image to image within a kaleidoscope, and that's your own life. It becomes that much more magical and that much more real and that much more beautiful and cosmic.
Wow. Bravo.
All right. So that's how I came to understand the process, or came to understand the importance of it. And then working with people at, wherever they are, because really my main approach to being a trainer is you just got to meet the client where he or she is.
Yeah.
And so from there we start. And always the people that do have the most success are the people that do this work.
Yeah, it's such a golden nugget. Like this is the key to everything.
Everything.
It's knowing your why, or having an intention. All of this is so powerful before every activity. And purpose, it doesn't have to be like your general purpose in life. Like it could be also like a mini purpose for each activity that you do. Like, why are you doing this?
Yes.
Why are you doing this type of work, or why are you saying yes to this type of invitations? There should be always like a purpose behind it. And I feel like a lot of people, they function on an automatic autopilot. They just do the things that they're used to doing, and it just keeps flowing. If we don't stop and we don't question, why am I doing this? Is this actually bringing me closer to my dream, to my purpose, what I want to be doing? Am I saying yes to these invitations out of fear of missing out? Or am I saying yes to them because I truly want to be surrounded by these people?
Yes.
And all it takes is just like a process of contemplation, sitting down and asking yourself these questions.
Yes.
And if it's uncomfortable to do it in your head, then maybe do it in a journal. Like write out some questions, like why am I keep doing the same things over and over? Or like how can I look at the situations in my life from a different perspective, and that will help get closer to the purpose, because that's like you were saying the story with your clients. Some of them knew the purpose, some of them did not.
Yes.
So how do you connect it? How do you help people who don't know their purpose in life? Like they have certain things, obligations that they do, they have families, they're pretty happy, but they may not know the cosmic purpose.
Yes. One of the reasons I came to start calling it a cosmic occupation is because of what you just expressed, is that in a lot of times there's a goal that the purpose of me saying yes to this invitation is really a goal. It's a stepping stone to a certain accomplishment, which is great. That's perfect. That's how we should consider everything we do. Everything should be with a sense of, goal and purpose. But there's another level of purpose that, and again, this is how I came to use this terminology, that's higher than that, that's more important than that. It's informing all of the goals. It's informing all of the other small purposes that are designed to get to a certain accomplishment. This thing is a thing that is magic to you, and it probably is the magic that you bring. And in fact, the questions that you're asking right now, or where we are in the conversation about how does somebody, get in and do the nitty gritty. I speak at schools a lot, and I teach this idea to kids that if you understand what you're really here to do, you'll have a magic that will go on in high school and in college, or in your profession, in your marriage. Everything that you choose, now suddenly you have a yardstick to measure. Does this move this cosmic purpose further? Does it put me more deeply into service in this place, in this occupation, or does it not? And so then all of a sudden, 95% of the decisions that we are faced with every day, every year, all the time, and especially when you're a teenager, should I do my homework? Should I hang out with these kids? Should I take this class? Should I take the harder class? Should I worry about my GPA, or should I just do what I want to do? And then choosing a college, choosing a boyfriend or a girlfriend, all of those choices, if you have a sense of this is what I actually do with my life, even as a teenager, you have so much more magic to work with to define and choose and make a life for yourself.
Absolutely.
So one of the things that it's funny, I brought with me just because it's just turned out to be a fun tool that I hand out to kids when I speak at their schools. And there's about 10 questions, but they're not limited to these particular questions that you can ask yourself. From those questions, take answers that could be an image, it could be words, it could be a picture that you draw, it could be just a feeling that you have in your body. Record that response to the question, and with all of these questions, sort of, you create an abstract kind of almost a piece of art that is, like a worksheet, but it's, this is my passion, this is my joy, this is what I'm good at, this is what I care about. And some of the questions are fun, and I'll leave this with you, or maybe even we'll set it up.
If you don't mind reading it out loud.
Yeah.
Let's put this to practice right away.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So let's give it to, put it to work. So one of the questions: if I won the lottery and all my needs were completely met, what things would I most want to fill my days and years with? And some of the examples I put for kids to get started with: surfing, writing music, traveling, learning about ancient cultures, teaching sign language. Like, there is no right answer,
right?
But like, if you didn't have to worry about making a living, if your parents weren't saying, yeah, that's fine, son, paint all you want, but you still have to make a living, take the making a living and just make it into, how would I make a life?
Mm-hmm.
So forget that and define that for yourself. And it could be like, draw a picture of yourself, on a breaking wave on a surfboard, or it could be, a whole list of things. I would do this, I would do this, I would do this, or your daily schedule. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I would do this. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, I would do that. On Sundays, this is what I would do. No right answer, no wrong way to approach the question.
And I just want to mention, this is not only for kids. Like, this can apply to us as well.
Absolutely, 100%.
At any stage of life.
That's the beauty of it, is that if, and think about if when we were teenagers, somebody had been encouraging us to do this work, that how much of our unfoldment would have already happened, and we would be even further, more deeply effective in our cosmic occupations and in a place of love and peace and contentment. So you're absolutely right. This is for any age. There's no right, no time to
but
get.
The sooner the better.
Sooner the better. And what I've also noticed, funny that just as a side note on that, what I've discovered in my own life is that living my life this way has made it so that every age has been the best age. So I look back on my youth and go, wow, I'm really glad I didn't waste my youth. I knew what I was doing then. And then I would look back, say, at my 20s or my 30s or my 40s. And, each of those phases of life, I look back with no regret. I mean, I have regrets where I've hurt people. I mean, not to go off on another discussion, but I mean, if I would say there's anything that I would say I could regret in my life, it's where I've just been thoughtless, and out of that has come hurt. But otherwise, in terms of how I've chosen to live my life and the work and the people and the contents, I'm very satisfied with. And really, I could say it's all because I understood how to measure my choices. And am I in my cosmic occupation? Does this bring other people closer to their cosmic occupation? Does this exemplify what I'm encouraging people to live by? That's helped me, or that I've used those sort of measures to decide for myself. So when you talk about there's no age where you could start this, that you're never too old, it's absolutely true. I mean, at whatever point and the older we get, the more we understand a lot of things about the world. So even if you're 75 going, gee, cosmic occupation, never thought about that. You have so much information about your life, well lived or poorly lived, either one, that will help guide you into getting into this information even sooner.
Yeah.
So,
help me unpack this concept, because it's interesting how, what we just discussed, but there's also a lot of teachings that say you are where you need to be. And it's great. And I agree with that. I am where I need to be right now. I am who I am right now.
Yes.
But also in the back of my mind, I also think about things like, yes, but if I was more present, if I was more mindful, more aware when I was younger, would have made different choices, I would have been somewhere else, and I wouldn't say it's a contradiction, they're not necessarily opposite things, but they can complement each other, where for me personally, I always feel like I could have done better. I could have been better. I could have made different choices. Not that I'm unhappy with where I am right now. I'm very happy, because that's the only state that I don't have any other choice.
Yes.
I'm here now.
Yes.
But you're touching upon something very important, on being you know, being more aware of what's your like, what are you relying to, like, what are you trying to do, what kind of impact are you trying to have on the world, right? So that the sooner the better. So
Yes.
how in
That's
your
such a
mind, how does it work?
beautiful question. When you were just asking it, what came to my mind was my wise old grandmother that used to say, "Bloom where you're planted, child. Just bloom where you're planted." So the blooming process is what she was concerned with. I was concerned with where I was supposed to be,
Yeah.
which her answer to that is just you. If the more present you are in who you are and who you're supposed to be, your blooming, your growth, your accomplishments will be that much more effective right where you are on your path. So exactly what you're saying is there's always that desire to be further down the path. There's always that desire to be to experience greater peace and greater contentment and greater joy and or outward accomplishments in the physical world. I mean, there are things that I want around me.
Hmm.
So there's always that to accomplish, we feel like. But the reality is, if we're just worrying about or thinking about putting our attention to how do I bloom right here in this environment that I'm in to the very best of my capability, that will lead you to the next step on your path. That will guide you down there. So that idea that you are right here where you're supposed to be, that's true because you're still going to move forward down a path or you're going to go backwards, but you still have a series of things that you came to this earth to accomplish. And for the most part, that's the refinement of your own soul. And out of that, then ideally becomes a place of service, a content of service that you're giving to mankind while you're here. But ultimately, we're each here to
Hmm.
be a better individual of consciousness. Period.
Absolutely.
And so then, no matter where you are on your path, if you're not doing the work, you're not moving forward, but you are where you're supposed to be.
Perfect.
There's more forward to go for us all, or
Yeah.
we wouldn't still be here. If we were done, we would be done and we would not
Unlimited
be
path.
here. That, yes. So that kind of is how I, look at that in my own life.
Hmm.
When I say, well, there's out there, there's, down in the distance, I can see where this path is taking me, and I look forward to the day of being there. Yet where I am right now, there's an opportunity to be more deeply engaged in that cosmic occupation, that
Amazing.
opportunity to share and give and serve.
You mentioned a few things about being of service, and I really want to jump into this subject, but maybe you can read a couple more questions and then we'll jump into being of service because that's something, well, I'd love to unpack a lot
Beautiful.
more.
And yes, I mean, as we're even going through these questions, the ideal outcome is going to be packing it into a place of service.
Perfect.
Because ultimately, what the end of this exercise would be with all of these questions is to frame it into a statement, a thought, a word, a picture, an image. This has to work for you, the individual. It doesn't have to be that you explain it to me or some outsider. It's how you explain it to yourself. This is what I do, and this is how I do it. This is how I serve, and these are the magical tools that are within me naturally that I get to employ in that service. That's ultimately what all of this is about.
Hmm.
So beautiful guidance into that level of conversation. So here's another question that, again, these are all for contemplation. There's no, I don't think, one single answer for any of us. But as time marches on, how would I most like history to remember us in future centuries and millennia? So when we look back at the Greeks in the ancient world, or Romans, or the Hebrew nation, or Chinese cultures. So take a thought of when we look back at ancient cultures, what we think of them, what understandings they had, how they faced historical circumstances, how they faced their climate.
Hmm.
An ice age caused people to learn how to farm. I mean, so like how when we look back at history, how in the future, 1,000 years from now, would you want people to look back at you, but not you, the individual, us as a society,
Got
on the globe, in our individual cities, um, you know, a- as a country,
it. Hmm.
and put some thought to that idea of what am I doing to contribute to that hope, that picture, that dream, what people are going to know about us in 1,000 years. And we live in an entirely different time in history where it's all recorded. So we used to sort of have to rely on history to be told, and it was always told with a particular viewpoint to whoever was writing the history. But now we live in an age where, it will be forever, which puts me to another idea of something you might want to be thinking about, is that there is now a digital dossier on each of us as an individual that will potentially last for eternity. We have no idea, but ultimately there is a file full of information about each of us. What do you want it to say?
Yeah.
So why not use that digital dossier, this opportunity to be an influence in history, why don't we use that for something that 500 years from now, when somebody opens that folder, finds that, that memory disk floating out in space going, gee, what is this? And they plug it into something that, or put it up to their heads and just think about it, and they pick up the information because it's all artificial intelligence anyway at that point. But what do you want it to say?
Yeah.
What is it that you want?
Thing to think about.
And for a lot of people that, we see the popularity of being an influencer, and we see, collect followers and make all of this, sort of, the numbers of people as opposed to the content of the people that are around us more important. Where are you leading your tribe? Where do you want them to go?
This is where I want them to go. Live with intention.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's what I want my file to say.
Exactly right. And so then everything you do from now on, ideally, is about putting that idea in the conversation on a global level, in the individual mind that you talk to and engage with. You live with intention. And when somebody does that, then suddenly they are involved in their cosmic occupation. They're involved in a higher level of mental awareness. They're moment to moment involved in a practice of gratitude, because once you live with intention, you realize how much the universe is on your side, co-creating everything with you.
Yes.
And that part, if that's what you do every day, every conversation you have, every business you start, every successful experience that you create is about living with intention, then you've done something. And 500 years from now, you're still doing it. Long after you're out of this body, but your voice still is ricocheting around the universe.
Beautiful.
I mean, I believe that that's true anyway. Because that is the nature of this universe that we live in. But that's a different discussion for another day, perhaps. But nonetheless, in that digital format, why not just think of it like that? What is the world going to say when they pull up my dossier? What are they going to think? What are they going to know? What difference will I make in the lives of somebody that isn't even born yet and won't even be in existence while I'm here in this form?
And I just want to also mention that it doesn't have to be something that's going to change the course of history forever, right? You could be a good father or a good mother and inspire, and your child will be the one that changes the course of history.
Absolutely.
You could be a kind person that just literally every day your intention is just to be kind to people around you.
That's right.
That's a very powerful and very transformational way to live your life as well.
I would even say that should perhaps be the level that we're thinking about when we're talking about service. How do I bloom where you're planted? Same thing. How do I serve the environment I'm in right now with this cosmic idea of what I think really, the vibration that I'm here to hold in the universe? I'm holding it whether I'm in this body or not. Remember that THX, the audience is listening. What is that vibration that you're holding that's what you're supposed to be doing? And am I putting that in the family that I'm living with right now? Am I putting that in the people around me in the job that I'm in right now? Am I putting it into the work, the actual tasks of my job, putting that into it? Because it sounds like it's this big, great thing that, my purpose is, in my past lives, I was, Queen of Sheba, and now I'm supposed to, lead my royal followers to whatever is next for them. Whether or not that's true is completely beside the point. The reality is in the conditions of our lives right now, we are full of ample opportunities to be of service on a much, much higher level with our own children, with our own family, with our own neighbors, with the people that, it doesn't even have to be with people. Just the atmosphere around me. What is the vibration that I'm putting? Am I just holding myself in a place of love so that then what is around me on a karmic aura is just love? Or whatever.
To me, it also works in a very interesting way. When I'm more present, I'm more aware of the surroundings and the people around me. There's some kind of connection going on. Like when I look people in the eyes, sometimes I see that they're not very present, so they just kind of they go, they're in their head, so you could see that they're not quite there,
Mm-hmm.
But others, they welcome this invitation that you're giving them, and so they connect, and then you realize, oh, both of us are very present and mindful in this moment. And to me, that actually like really drives my day. It puts me into this flow state where I feel that I'm not alone in the world anymore. Like we're having these connections, and like I know that there's something unspoken going in this moment. It's something is happening,
Yes.
and that puts me in a very, I would say, altered state where I feel things are flowing, magic is around me, and so I use these opportunities to actually generate this flow state. If I'm alone at home, it's very difficult for me to just jump into that state. I have to perhaps maybe meditate. I have to listen to some music. It takes a lot more. Maybe go to nature. But when I'm
Mm-hmm.
around people and I start doing this exercise of connecting with them in a very present and mindful way, it's the spark is there. It ignites, and then I can create and co-create.
Yes. Because we are, co-creators. We are each the channel of blessing for one another. That's how the universe provides, is through one another.
Mhm.
But I'll even encourage that you take that one step further and say, all right, we have eye contact. Well, in yoga, they say that namaste, that idea of the God in me sees and says hello to the God in you. That's what the greeting of namaste in a yoga practice actually means. So that exact same experience that you're having, namaste experience, I see you and I'm saying hi. But then I can also add one more level of empowerment or love or strength or intention.
Mhm.
So once I have that moment with you, why don't I take it one step further and actually give you a gift? Even if all it is we're walking on the sidewalk, we see each other, and I acknowledge you and you acknowledge me, but I can do it in a way that says, right on, brother, keep doing what you're doing because
Yes.
it's working.
Yes.
Without words, I can give you that. So, um, one thing that I would say when you're on your own and you don't have the benefit of somebody else who sparks that in you and helps get you up into that flow state, just go back to that question: is what activity can I engage in right now that puts me into my cosmic occupation,
Mhm.
puts me into my place of service? Because once you're in service, you can't be in yourself. So once you're out of yourself, then you're in good. You're in a good state. Because it's all of the stuff of how the world is impacting me and how much work I have to do and la 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 la, all that will spiral right down into darkness
Yeah.
as soon as we put it all about ourselves. As soon as we get out of ourselves and get into service, then suddenly, flow is available. Service is always required for flow to happen. There is no time that you're in flow that you're not in service. Those two things are not, you can't do one without the other. Well, you can serve without flow, but you can't have flow without service.
Wow, that is so beautiful. Service is required for flow.
It is. It
Nice.
is. And usually that magic uh, um, passion, that thing you love to do and be involved in and engaged in, that's also part of flow. So it's in the situations, and that's actually, we can go back to the questions. That's actually one of the questions that is on the list is, what is that thing you do that you just lose all track of time? And if you could just do this,
Mhm.
this is all that really matters in life. And that could be working out in your garage on a workbench, carving wood dolls. Like it doesn't have to be some amazing thing. It's you, it's yours. It's the joy that you find in a doing. And
Mhm.
in that doing, that's your place. That magic is part of flow. We almost always, it's very rare that you'll get into flow where you're not engaging that real, passion that's
Mhm.
within you. And, let me
Beautiful.
see if I can find the question here exactly how it's worded. What is that thing I do that keeps me enthralled and engaged for hours while time just seems to stand still? Why?
Beautiful.
And as the examples that, again, this is for kids, so I sort of, prompted them with some ideas of dancing, singing, writing, kicking a soccer ball, solving puzzles, drawing people, drawing buildings, whatever that thing is. I mean, there's a passion that you have that you just love to do,
Yeah.
that if you put that into service, then you're 2 steps into flow,
Mhm.
passion and service.
And singing and dancing,
Mhm.
again, good for
Sure.
adults.
Ab-
I was singing on the way here.
Absolutely. 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 There is always music. I would encourage that from all of you, everybody,
Yes.
you know, that we understand that this is a vibration of our universe of vibration. So good music is vibration. I mean,
Mhm.
even people who don't have hearing can understand music because they can feel the vibration.
Mhm.
So that level of just, tweaking your environment to put you into flow, so you always want the highest level vibrations around you, whatever that. So, whatever type of music just, gets you moving, or, puts you in a praise state, or it just makes you grateful to be alive.
Yes.
Doesn't matter what it is. Put that around you as much as possible. So singing and dancing are absolutely
You got a question about
elemental.
gratitude there? Because I know
Mm.
we're gonna jump into this one.
Well, yeah, there's on this, let's see if there's a particular gratitude question.
Gratitude is definitely something that we discuss quite a lot
Yeah, it's
on this
true.
podcast. You and there's something so powerful about it, and even more doing it with intention.
Yes.
Being grateful was intention, man. Sometimes I even put like a hand on my heart just to really connect, because a lot of thoughts and a lot of things sometimes that I say, they just flow by, but if you put that intention behind them, then it's
Mm,
just like it ignites it.
exactly. And that, it's funny that you would bring that up because it's another conversation, perhaps again for another day. But we now have, functional MRI, that you can be in an MRI, and we're watching your brain activity happen on a screen while you're, having a discussion with somebody. And when people go into a state of gratitude, that it ignites a whole aspect of the brain that no other thinking process ignites.
Mhm.
And when you add intention to the gratitude, so it's not just a thank you state of mind, but it's also a profound sense of awe
Mhm.
that I get to have this, I get to be this, I get to experience this. That just turns on every aspect of your brain and actually creates healing. And so a neurologist can watch a brain heal just by going down the path into gratitude with a subject
Mhm.
that's lying there, having this discussion with a prompter.
Wow.
So it really is. It's funny because the way I came to discover gratitude was very much like how I came to discover the power of purpose, was with clients. And one of the things that I could see early on, and it's probably something that's more of a gift, but some of it's learned, and a skill that's been developed. But I can see people's lives in their body. So I can assess with not just your fitness level when I see your body, and the activities that you engage in and should engage in if you're not, but I can see the emotional content. I can see the experiences that you've been having, and how that rests itself inside the actual physical canister. Because, of course, the internal experience is what's creating and informing the external
Mhm.
canister. Um, but I could see that forgiveness was a real problem for a lot of people, and that was holding back their well-being. And um, not being trained in any way to have discussions on that level with people, I started really looking at my own life and my own experiences where I need to create forgiveness for myself, who and what needs forgiveness. And I realized that gratitude for those conditions that I thought I needed to create forgiveness for,
Mhm.
really what I needed to do was create gratitude for, and understand that those were things that brought me down the path to the place that I am right now. Back to bloom where you're planted, child. And so then, out of trying to help others uh, find forgiveness, or find a path to forgiveness with people and situations and their own choices. I mean, it doesn't have to be that some terrible thing happened and they're trying to move on in their life. But I saw that it was the key to forgiveness was gratitude. And then I really saw the magic of gratitude once I started working with that. So forgiveness almost becomes a side effect of a serious gratitude practice.
Mhm.
And so gratitude then, I've continued to observe it, how when it's working in people's lives, and I've continued to study that. I mean, both in current research that's available and understand the neuroplasticity of the brain, which, that all Candace Pert, who was sort of one of the founders of in that movement, and 30 years ago, at least I would say for her, but none of this was common knowledge the way we understand it now, even when I was starting to work with these concepts of how is our mindset impacting our body and our health.
Mhm.
But I could see it. I didn't know what the bridges and the connections were. Now we have science that shows it, but I could see it happening. And when I was working with people who were willing to start talking about gratitude, I could see everything change. Just as the same way purpose changed people's lives when they started to use it in the gym, because of course what you're doing in the gym then becomes how you're using it. That's 3 or 4 hours a week
Mhm.
that you're with your trainer. What you're doing the rest of the time, living with purpose, you could see how that was changing their lives. The same with gratitude.
Mhm.
Once you saw that they were grateful for their circumstances, that really the most valuable tool of perspective is gratitude. Once all these things that we think are problems that are really dragging us down, well, these are just tasks that have to be accomplished because I got what I wanted. I got a job that I love, or I got a family that I love, or I live in a place that I love. I have a home that I love. Whatever the thing it is that all you're doing is focusing on the little bit of a problem that comes with it instead of
Yeah.
going, wait a minute, I got what I wanted. No, and this is a little problem. The roof leaks. All right, well, I got a roof that's over a beautiful home that's full of wonderful things that inspire me every day. So the leaking roof is no problem. Just by using gratitude on that surface level,
Yeah.
just like that, gives you perspective over most of the conditions of your life. And then suddenly they don't own you anymore. You're just currently aware that there are things that need your attention, as opposed to, oh my God, how am I ever going to survive all of this?
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely allows you to rewire your brain. It allows you to look at the something from a new perspective. To me, it had a very powerful effect on my life. And recently, actually, I have this shift that I'm just starting to be aware of it right now. Is my prayers recently shifted to just saying thank you. And I don't know how it happened, because before.
Right on the nose, my friend. Right on the nose. Right on the nose.
Yeah, it just happened.
Prayer is not begging. Prayer is an acknowledgement that I know it's going to happen. And thank you in advance. And you can say thank you to the forces of the universe that respond to your vibration, to a loving creation that sustains you every day, all day long, to the creation that continues to expand. So something's happening.
Yeah.
We see it going in every direction. So we know that there's still activity happening. Just say thank you to that. If you can't find the serious truth of your highest self, if you still haven't connected to that being, that understanding, uh, still make your prayers just thank you to the universe. Not, oh, give me this and when can this happen? And I can't wait. Just thank you in advance for the wisdom and the knowledge that I know I'm going to need to handle this problem.
Yeah.
And in thanks and in gratitude, in a deep way that it's done, there is the activation of faith. There is the faculty of actual being a creator. Remember, we're made in the image and likeness of the master creator. At least most scripture wisdom books all tell us. So then the act of creation is speaking it into existence and resting in faith that it will come to pass. That's creation. So with just thank you in advance, instead of begging and, hoping that the universe comes through with this thing you're asking, just say, I know I'll have it in its due course, its due time. I thank you that it'll be exactly what I need and way beyond my wildest imagination.
Hmm.
Which I love that you came to that place in the conversation, but in your own journey, because that really is what I see. One of the most magical aspects of gratitude is it really shows me for sure, but I'm no different, I'm supposed, than anybody else, shows the creative uh, nature of who we are, because you're saying thank you for these things that have unfolded, and it's unbelievable. I know what I asked for. I know what I said, go create, all you forces of the universe that are responding to my voice. And I see what that loving universe filled in that outline with. I made, like when we were kids with a coloring book, I
Mhm.
made the outline, and the universe filled it in with not just what I asked for, but all of this other stuff that I never even knew was available, that I never even thought about asking for. And yet it's perfectly designed and just wrapped up and handed right to me. And it's obviously mine, obviously belongs to me, but I didn't even know how to ask for it. That's the beauty of just a gratitude practice, because you see the nature of yourself as a creator and what your role in creation is. Thank you in advance, like you just said about prayer. And you see how prayer gets answered. You see the solutions that the universe creates that you could have never even, you just never would have imagined that there was a pathway through that set of circumstances. And yet, there it was. That to me is the
Beautiful.
most powerful value of gratitude.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I would love to talk
Thank
about
you.
forgiveness a little bit as well, because when you said the word forgiveness, I realized that that has been quite a journey for me of discovering forgiveness, because um, I always thought I don't have much to forgive, because like I'm blessed to have a good life. But I realized that forgiveness could be also for unmet expectations, and that's something that there was a lot in here. The
Mhm.
things that I wanted to happen, the things that I expected to happen, hoped to happen, and they didn't. And somehow I developed this grudge, this resentment, which it was difficult to explain. Sometimes it's easier to explain when a person, hurts another person, like it's a direct experience, that you're angry at that person. But those ones, the unmet expectations, they creep up on you. It's very difficult sometimes to point them out, but that's something that I notice as I start sharing more and more about it. People say that it happens to them as well, and it's something that these resentments, they need to be let go. Otherwise, eventually they manifest themselves in a physical way as certain illnesses,
Absolutely.
and so that anger, that resentment, that disappointment, all of that needs to be let go. Part of it through gratitude, for
Is there
those.
a way that you could think of, even for this discussion right now, but on a much deeper, longer scale, um, how would you apply gratitude to those conditions that you're thinking about, the unmet expectations, the resentment, the dashed hopes, whatever that might be? Is there an actual way that you can get yourself to a place of true, like, thank you? Not just like, all right, well, thanks for my problems. So, I'll start with that. And if that's all you got, then
Yeah.
start with that. But ideally work toward a place of saying, because part of the thing about unmet expectations, particularly if that's an area of growth for your forgiveness practice, is that our dreams, those images that we have, those things that we want to accomplish, the ones that are really meaningful and lasting and enduring, those were ours to manifest. So they belong to us. So there's a certain disconnect when that stuff is not happening. When you're out of alignment, sort of where we
Mhm.
started this conversation with what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. And if I can, for me, if I can start saying thank you for the awareness that I'm out of alignment. I'm angry that this stuff is not happening or hasn't happened, or that I feel so confused. What am I supposed to do to make it happen? All of that is just information that gets me back to cosmic occupation, gets me back to service, gets me back to the real, true image of what I'm trying to create with my life,
Mhm.
with this opportunity of being in this set of circumstances right now. And so gratitude can bridge back to the very beginning of, if I can't unfold it yet and understand it all, at the very least, I can be grateful for the fact that it's information that will guide me to make future decisions that ideally are getting me more and more in alignment with all of the things that my heart tells me, my mind tells me, my gut tells me. I mean, when you're in alignment, in
Yeah,
flow.
exactly.
And so even if what I have to say forgive, what I need to find forgiveness for, whether it's a person or a set of a situation or a set of circumstances, uh, um, just going back to say thank you for that. Let's start with that.
Yeah.
Thank you that I've got clarity that this is not working and this is not going to keep on going like this. I got to do
Yeah.
something else.
What's been helping me a lot is non-attachment, trusting, and surrendering. So not attaching myself to the outcome,
Yeah.
because I know that whatever agenda I make up for myself by myself,
Mm-hmm.
it's probably not gonna be what the greater plan is for me.
Yes.
And so not
Yes.
attaching myself to that outcome, and and that happens by trusting and surrendering that there is a greater plan for me, that I'm I'm a small little speckle
Mm-hmm.
on this agenda. So trusting and surrendering into this process, it helped me start letting go of all this stuff, all the resentment, all the anger.
Yes. Yes. One, it goes back to very nicely that whole idea of purpose and service and cosmic occupation, because that really is the only thing we can attach ourselves to. The outcome is unknown. Again, if we're even talking in this digital world of where this conversation is going to show up in 500 years and what impact it might have at that time, we have no knowledge. So I can't attach myself to a specific set of outcomes or a frame that this conversation has to fit into.
Mhm.
But you and I both know that this whole conversation is in service to people living with intention.
Yes.
So what else do I need to know? Ultimately, if I can get myself to that
Hmm.
place, that's the ideal, again, place of flow from service and passion.
Wow, you just perfectly summarized. I was thinking, how do we summarize this conversation? So people, after listening to this podcast, they have a clear agenda of the changes, improvements, transformations they need to have in their life.
Yes.
And we definitely unpacked quite a few things that even if just one of them, even if you just start with like answering one of the questions that you read out, just starting to live more with intention, creating more purpose behind every action that you take in life, behind every interaction that you have with a person. Even if it's you're driving on the road and they're driving in the opposite direction, that 1 second of a glance could enhance somebody's life. And who knows, maybe they're on the way to give a talk in front of 100 people, and just you winking at them, made their day, and they're going to go and change more lives.
Absolutely. I would that I would say is probably the most valuable thing anyone can take from this conversation is start to consider that this life is a life of service and that every interaction that we have is constantly an opportunity to serve the highest good for ourselves, the highest good for mankind, the highest good for our hopes and dreams of what might happen in the world now in our lifetimes and in the lives centuries down. If what can I do right this second that serves that goal, let alone what might elevate the vibration of this whole quadrant of the universe.
Mhm.
I mean, so I can start to heal this destruction that I'm participating in equally at the same time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I mean, we discussed certain examples of how to be of service, but a person listening to us right now, they may have their own way.
Of course they do.
We can't list all of them, and only that person will know. Maybe nobody else will ever know what is it that they're actually doing. Maybe they will be just literally sitting at home and holding space for all the humankind.
100%. Yeah, monks in Tibet understand that
Yeah.
their job is to just hold that space, is to just keep a frequency that's vibrating to hold the whole thing higher. Just take it higher. That's all they do.
Wonderful. Jeffrey, do you have any notes on journaling? Because this is something that comes up a lot. A lot of our listeners, they ask, well, what do I write down? And this is something that I started asking a lot of my guests, just to get different examples, because journaling could be one of the most powerful transformational exercises.
Yes.
Not everybody has an opportunity to sit down and talk to a therapist or have a spiritual teacher, but we are our own teachers. Everything is
Oh,
already
it's already
within,
there. Yes.
and your journal can help you go through it. And we're actually talking about acts of kindness and service. Our friends at Intelligent Change, they gave us some free journals, 5-minute journals, and which I'll be giving out to people who like write and comment.
Great,
So
great,
once they
great.
get these journals, I would love to get some feedback from you of how do you journal, and what can people start journaling?
Great. I love this question. I mean, there's so much where my mind goes right away. First of all, the very first thing I would say about journaling is make it a part of your life. I don't care what format you do it, where ideally handwritten is better because there's the whole neurological connection that goes between mind and finger as your brain has to articulate things that are coming out of the unconscious, believe it or not, because you think, oh, well, I have to think of what to write and then write it. No, as soon as you start writing, your unconscious mind starts to deliver the information, and your conscious mind then translates it and puts it into a neurological synapse that ends up writing. And we all have had that experience where you look back at what you wrote, and you're like, how did I have any wisdom to write that?
Yeah.
Like, who wrote this? It's my handwriting, but that is, wow, that's great. So ideally, that practice of journaling could be a part of a morning routine. That I would love to, encourage people to have a morning routine almost without fail. Successful people have a routine of things they do every morning. Then that time is sacrosanct, whether it's an hour, 45 minutes, where what you do every day doesn't have to be the same exact things, but you've got tools like journaling that you're putting to work to get yourself into flow, to get yourself into service, to get yourself into better understanding. Journaling, one of the best ways I know, and there's a book called The Artist's Way. I don't know if you're familiar with that. And the author talks about morning pages. And so do it in the morning, do it the first thing, and just pick up the pencil and let it start writing. And you don't have to have any intention about what you're going to write about. But your mind knows, just like how we wake up and remember dreams, our unconscious mind is dealing with the content of our days in the unconscious while we're asleep. The same is available to you, but while you're awake through journaling. So just pick up you could just say, the truth about my life today is, and just the sky is blue, it's 75 degrees. I'm going to wear this suit because this is what I have to do today. And then within a moment of where you just stop thinking it through, it'll just start to flow.
Yeah.
And then there's real information, there's real value, there's real answers, there's real creative solutions to things that you didn't know how you were going to get through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And from personal experience, I know, again, trust and surrender. Like, you may be writing what you're going to be eating that day, and then some thought comes in which doesn't go along with what you were writing, but you have to trust and surrender because that's the shift.
Just start writing.
Exactly.
Yes. One of the things that I might also encourage is that anybody would find, doesn't have to be a devotional type of book, but something that's inspiring to you on a subject matter that's inspiring to you. Read a page, read a paragraph, read a chapter.
Yeah.
Just something that's putting your conscious mind in that space of an area that you want to go to, and then start to journal on that subject. So then we're going to connect unconscious and consciousness of, in a way that then starts making answers happen and starts giving information of how life, the information that you already have inside of you, can be used to live life.
Jeffrey, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
This whole conversation was just pure flow, and the things that you have shared with us are just so powerful. And I highly recommend just keep re-listening this podcast. I'm going to listen to it again and again and again because there's so many golden nuggets. There's like this ultimate truth, and you've dedicated your whole life into finding out more about it and sharing it with people. You had very positive impact on my life, and some of the things that I say, some of the things that I do throughout the day are thanks to you, and thanks for you seeing that and inspiring that. So thank you so much for your time. I'm sure there's like tons of people that now want to connect with you. So what is the best way to connect with you?
A great question. I'll tell you, let's start with this. If you want to talk more about this idea of purpose,
Yes.
Send me an email at just Practice Living Well is the name of my company. So just info@practicelivingwell.com. And I will send you this exercise that I have that I give to kids when I speak at schools about this idea of finding your purpose. And there's no opt-in, there's no, just let's start with that.
Perfect.
Because if you don't have any other impact or any other contact with me for the rest of eternity, do that work and I'll be happy.
Awesome. And you're definitely coming back in 2020 for our podcast.
Excellent. I love it. It'll be
There's
great.
like 10 more topics that we wanted to cover.
I know. There's so much. That's the beauty of it. There's no finish line. There's just more.
Exactly. And thank you
Yes.
for the tips on the journaling.
Yes.
Whoever's listening, please rate our podcast, write some comments what you learned from this podcast episode. I would be so happy to send you the 5-minute journal.
Yes.
And
Great.
I'm so happy that we're in this co-creation space where people are aligning and magical things are happening.
We are so lucky to be alive right now.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Live with intention.
Live with intention.
I'll see you soon.
See you soon.